Hello, everyone. Welcome to VR Verdict Podcast, Episode 1, Season 2, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I'm PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And joining me is the development team of Patagon, possibly Dungeon Adventures. You guys can correct me as we go. Some exciting news there. So, Welcome, guys. If you guys want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Joran. I'm the founder of Something Awesome Games, and I originally was the main developer, and now I've gotten other people, and I'm now, I guess, more, I feel like a producer, who knows how to develop. So
I'm all right. I'm Daryl. I am also a producer, kind of like a designer and a level designer at for Patagon and Dungeon Adventures.
Yeah, and kind of Daryl's kind of the found, like he founded Dungeon Adventures with me, so I want to give him credit.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm Matt. I guess I'm the lead developer now on Dungeon Adventures. Would you say, Joran?
Yes, you're the lead. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Well, good to have you guys. Can't wait to talk about both games. We had Jorn on the podcast 3 years ago. When Patagon was first, the Kickstarter had like 8 days left. Been talking a little bit with you on Discord, and like, hey, I want to play the game. I haven't played it yet. And you're like, hey, we're working on this one too. And I'm like, what the hell's going on, man? Like, I don't know if you guys want to focus on either one or.
Let me catch you up.
All right.
Let me catch you up. So, yeah, when we last talked, we were doing the Kickstarter. We pulled the Kickstarter off. Then we had to make the game. And so I did the Ukrainian team I was working with kind of bailed on me, and then
Vladimir
doing their own thing. Yeah. I mean, he's still a good guy. I talk to him once in a while. And then I just did it myself. I am a programmer by trade, so I probably had a better ability than someone that's just picking it up from nothing. So I did that. I met Daryl. He was helping with maps. Actually, the first map he gave me was completely unusable, and I paid him. I paid him for it. Said this is unusable, and I said this is fine. Because we had good conversation, we got along. I was like, it's not a big deal. We'll move past it. And then so we went on. We built Patagon. I don't know. It took a year at least, maybe 2 years. We built sort of a demo of Patagon that was like real game, real playable game, and Daryl did the map for me of the dungeon level in it. But then me and Daryl were talking, and Daryl is like a serial game starter. He's just like always like, hey man, I got an idea for a new game. And then we kind of was like, all right, well, so the thing was, when we started Patagon, the Quest wasn't like totally dominant. PC VR was still like, and I was rooting for PC VR because I was like, I don't want to compromise on graphics,
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong.
When we talked, the Quest 2, I think, was just announced, and we were talking a little bit about PC VR versus standalone that back then. So time flies, man.
Yeah, the Quest 1 wasn't really that impressive, so I think I was right in being like, no way. But then the Quest 2 came out and it was pretty good, and we're just watching how everything is moving, and me and Daryl were like, well, let's start a Quest game too. And not that we're even doing it, we just kind of started brainstorming ideas, while I was working on Patagon and stuff. And we came up with a bunch of different like ideas for sort of genres of games. And we settled on kind of a old school D&D, because I played a bunch of D&D for like 6 years or something as an adult. I'm late to D&D, but I had a good run with it with some adult friends, and then Daryl's like a big time Warhammer um guy, so we did that, and then it kind of just sat on the back burner. I hired another dev I that will remain nameless, and while I was working on Patagon, I paid him to work on this other game, and he was like, everybody was like, "Oh, you got to make it multiplayer," even though I didn't really want to make it multiplayer. Everybody's like, "You got to make it multiplayer." So I hired this guy to make it multiplayer, and then he ended up building everything from scratch, including his own like replications. Like it was just crazy. And I almost cried because it didn't work right. He wasn't using the built-in Unreal stuff. And I was like so depressed. And then I talked to Daryl, and he was like, why don't you just abandon that and just build a first player game, single player game, and just like have fun with it? And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so I fired that dev, and then Dungeon Adventures was kind of bored, and then we started kind of working on it. But we didn't really get going because I was like, I have to deliver something on Patagon before um I can really go on this. So I don't remember. It was probably like a year ago. Uh yeah, we delivered the beta on Steam for Patagon. And it was like kind of three little mini missions, and it was really fun. Um, and the only problem was at that point we were trying to figure out, okay, well, do we want to keep working on it? And it was like, yeah, but like PC VR is not doing great. And do we want to keep going down that path? So it kind of stalled at that point. So anyway, Daryl, you want to talk, or Matt, or yeah?
It's also a very saturated market, right? The Steam, um,
Yeah,
in general, because I've released a few games on Steam, and it's hard to get through because there's just so much that people are offering.
Yeah.
So your game doesn't get noticed, or your game doesn't get seen. And with VR, it's kind of a new. That's not necessarily a new space, but there's just a lot more people that are willing to try games. Um, and I mean, it's it's also a lot more fun to work on. So in general, I think going for the Quest in terms of what kind of game you want to put out, I think is a really good way to do it. Except for going for VR
Yeah.
for the Steam. Yeah.
And when you guys were talking about Patagon back then, like you were being super ambitious and I loved it, but you're like, we're gonna go on every platform, we're gonna have a flat screen version, I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could still do the flat screen version. We just haven't we just stopped because we were like, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, it was hard.
So
I mean, it's
yeah,
still kind of questionable. Like, I mean, obviously, standalone's kind of winning by a landslide now, but actually
yeah,
think PCVR is starting to come back a little bit because
the VR mods and stuff like that are
yeah,
bringing
the
a lot of
mods
things
and
up.
all that stuff happening, and then the Quest 3 and the Quest 2 just being the main, like the bulk of headsets connecting to Steam. So I mean, kind of getting the best of both worlds. So yeah, for a while there was questionable. So I get it, like you're kind of in a limbo and you're like, maybe just wait a bit and see what happens.
yeah.
I mean, that was also the map that I built for Joran at the beginning for Patagon was just way too big and saturated with foliage, and it was a nice map, but it just didn't work for VR, and it would never work on Quest. And I think the main idea with a VR game is to make it compatible with the Quest first, and then you can put it on Steam as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what we figured out. So I want to give backtrack. I want to get how Matt got involved. So meanwhile, I mean, this has been 3 years. A buddy of mine came into some money and wanted to start. This is when metaverse was the craze. Remember, it was like everything's gonna be metaverse. And well, my buddy started a metaverse company, and He was building like a metaverse type game, and then he tried to make it multiplayer and create all this crazy stuff. And he ended up hiring really bad developers. They kind of ripped him off. But he also hired Matt to make a 2D version of the game. And Matt crushed it and basically made a really amazing 2D version of this metaverse game. That was actually the only thing that was completed from the project before it ran out of money.
That was the prototype, apparently.
Yeah.
That was the,
that ended up becoming the main product.
Nice.
So yeah, and that's on Steam, I believe.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Is.
But check that out.
What is it called? You want to give it a plug, or
Are we allowed to plug
yeah.
that? It's called RAM 1982.
Yeah.
It's a multiplayer little multiplayer arena thing.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and then that through that
yeah.
kind of that's when you were obviously involved in that sort of project a little bit as well, right? So
I was a sort of an advisor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it ran out, I went to Matt and I said, "Hey, I really like working with you. Yeah, have you ever worked on VR?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Well, you can learn and it's not that hard, and let's work together." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because I got to a point, I just got so busy where I was like, I don't have time. I had a kid, and like I was just like, I don't want things to languish because of, I don't have like as much free time as I did a year ago or whatever. So yeah. So with Matt and Daryl and me, it really, it's been what, a year that
I
we
think it's
worked
about a
on?
year ago that I joined.
Yeah.
And initially I was doing the you just brought me on to do like the enemy AI, I think was the original stuff.
Yeah.
Which was really fun, and like I really sort of, as soon as I joined that project, I really I just got it. I really loved the low poly style. Obviously, I think that was a decision because of the hardware limitations, but it like looked really good. I thought, it really made it stand out compared to a lot of other games. And yeah, it was just fun. I just got it. It was going to be like a fun kind of D&D adventure, and like I think it fits really well in VR, that kind of game, because you're like physically swinging the sword and things like that. And that's something we've kind of like tried to make feel really fun. I think it's like the combat and things like that. So you have to like, you can't just like waggle the sword around. It won't deal any damage if you do that. You have to really swing it, and you've got your shield there to block attacks. And I think it's just turned into a really fun little project actually. And yeah, and basically from there, so I did the enemy AI, and with the enemy AI as well, we've kind of tried to make each different enemy have different behavior rather than just being like a reskin and like with different stats. Each enemy behaves a little bit differently. Like some will try to retreat and attack from a distance. Some will like, charge in and whack you. And so we kind of made it feel like a real adventure, I think, which is really cool.
Nice.
And from there, I just carried on working on it basically, right?
Yeah,
you
I
just
was
had
like,
more and
Matt,
more
you
stuff
could
for me
just
to
keep
look
working on it. I was like, so after doing Patagon myself, I was like, okay, no one tells you this, but the real currency of making a game is making the enemies, because that is the most grindiest, hardest part. And I've noticed too, when I started looking at other VR games, I was like, they don't really have that many enemies. Like they maybe have a few, but and it's because it's so time consuming to do all the programming and like I don't know. So and the cool thing with this is we just got all custom models made for all the characters and enemies and everything, and just
nice.
We went really low poly style. So like the first thing that happened was I went and made the project. I went and sort of took Patagon and forked it and then made it run on the Quest. So that was what I did. And I just did a lot of like fixes and optimizations. Then Daryl came in and we had already written the story out for the entire, because it's going to be different quests sort of in the game, and so we're starting out with one quest that's like 13 levels, and I wrote a whole script out, and then I gave it to Daryl, and then he just started working on the maps. So yeah, Daryl, you want to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. It was really funny because what happened is Jordan gave me basically like a document, like this is going to be the story, and just create what you want to make with it. So I just kind of like went at it, and I get in this mode where once I start building these maps, I just keep on building them in like this crazy mode. So like I think I knocked out most maps in like a pretty short amount of time, and just kept on building on them. And it was really fun to do because you go from cave interior to like a kind of a mine shaft type of deal with crystals to dwarven ruins, and it's really cool to make all these very well, everything is very dungeony, right? So and my inspiration comes mostly from having played games such as World of Warcraft and especially Warcraft 3 when I was younger, and I'm always building maps in my early age. So my idea of a dungeon is exactly what a dungeon would be in Warcraft. So for
Nice.
me, it was just trying to replicate that idea of having zones and open areas and corridors and but keeping it interesting as well. So uh, it's kind of mazy sometimes. Like you'd be walking around in Dungeon Ventures, and you kind of you'd be like, oh, like where am I? Like have I been here before and all that stuff? But but I think that's the magic of having a big dungeon map. Um, and yeah, I mean, what Jordan is saying is true. We're planning to have multiple different quests in the game so that we can expand upon. And there's literally like, depending on how well the game does, that like there's no end to what we can add, which is very nice.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we already had some cool ideas for the next chapter. I think we've been like, even before we finish this one, we've been being like, oh, what happens in, if you do this in the next chapter, that'd be really fun. So
Yeah.
yeah. And can I just say, like, some of those levels as well would feel like really epic in VR. Like you don't, I spend like 90% of my time looking at it through like a PC screen while I'm developing it. But when I test it in VR, it's like, whoa, this like you walk into this cavern and it's like it's just massive, and you got these big statues, of dwarves in the corner, and it's like it kind of blows your mind in a way. It looks so cool in VR.
The scale really helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite
absolutely.
aspect of VR is just scale and like having those moments where you feel small, That's exciting because that's one of my favorite game types. Like I don't I mean there'll be competitors, but like Ancient Dungeon and Eternal Dungeons of it, is it Eternal Dungeons? I can't remember. Those are my two
Dungeons of
favorite games.
Eternity or whatever.
Yeah. Like those are my jams. So you guys sound like you're similar, but you'll have your own twist on it. So that's awesome. Because when
we're very traditional, because I played
awesome.
Dungeons of Eternity, and I was like, so I'm in a spaceship, but I have to collect rocks to save my planet, but I have to only fight with an axe. I was like, I was like, it's a little weird premise, but yeah.
Yeah. Mechanics are great though, but I love that you're coming at it from like the D&D perspective, and because the older games, like the old Gauntlet style games, is kind of the vibe I'm getting almost from what you showed me anyway. So
yeah, and it's very Tolkien kind of influenced, even though we never said it. It was as we were working on it. Matt was just like, yeah, so I kind of tweaked this to be a little more Tolkien-y, and I was like, yeah, that's what I. So
yeah, it really got that classic RPG medieval edge to it.
Nice.
Goblins, dragons, and all that stuff. So
I like the more enemies because, like, not knocking games that have like the skeletons and stuff, but it's like, how many times can you like reuse the same base enemy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, and then the same behavior kind of. I mean, they got the behavior really great, but then it's like I'm like, is this whole game skeletons? Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
One's
and we have
blue.
skeletons.
Yeah, they're fine, but like if it's just blue, that one's tinted red. It's a little harder. Like, come on,
Right. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. How many enemies do we have, Matt? Do you think?
It's around, I don't know, like 10 or 11 maybe different enemies, I
Yeah.
think. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
most of them have also like they actually function different, which is the more important thing, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. See, like for example, you have your goblins who like tend to, be in groups and they will like shoot you at a distance, and if they start taking damage, they'll run away and try to find cover. And whereas like, the basic, obviously skeletons as an example will just like come at you and they're kind of like more relentless, kind of just, almost like mindless, just trying to like swipe at you as hard as possible. So yeah, it's quite a bit, and like I said, pretty much every enemy in it has got like a somewhat different behavior. So it's kind of hopefully going to keep the player guessing and keep it interesting, I think. Yeah.
Tell me, but don't
Behaviors
tell
is-
me.
Hmm.
Yeah, don't tell me. I'm just curious. Are there mimic chests? Because that's one of the things in VR that just takes me by surprise and scares the crap out of me. It's like you're not expecting it. I don't want to know. Don't tell me.
We could put
No,
that as a
I
note for
don't.
chapter 2.
Yeah, I think we. Yeah, I don't think we. Yeah. Are those like that chest that attack you or whatever?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think you're
Good
opening a
idea, though.
chest and it just puts your head in its mouth and you're dead.
Good idea, though.
There's one game
Yeah.
that does that in VR and it took me by such a surprise. It just freaked me out. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump
That's,
scare.
Since I played Dark Souls a lot, chests just freak me out to begin with.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Here's-
I feel like as Daryl made these really awesome maps, we just were like, okay, we have something because we were showing clips to people and people were like, hey, that looks really cool actually. And I kind of want to play that. So then we just kind of dug in. We're like, all right, well, seems like people like this idea. There's also a bunch of NPCs that you get to meet in it that kind of do sort of a story just by them talking to you and interacting with you and stuff. So I'm not going to spoil it, but
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we wanted to
Another-
make it like, even though combat obviously is a big part of it, I think we didn't want to just make it like a dungeon crawler. There's a bit of storyline to it. There are NPCs you encounter, so yeah, to make it feel like, again, to give it that kind of D&D sort of feel, classic kind of D&D feel.
Yeah.
That's awesome because some games skip that, and especially in VR, like it's kind of tricky to do, so I get it. But when they do it well, it really adds something special. So
Yeah, and there's also a few puzzles sometimes, and the puzzles aren't that difficult, but it's it's just made to pause back a minute and don't constantly be fighting, and then eventually you just gotta think like, oh wait, like maybe I have to, I don't know, find a key or do something that doesn't include just fighting through it.
You gotta appreciate the map too. So you gotta search around. So.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so some of the maps are pretty big, and especially in terms of skill, and that's sometimes hard to do with the quest. So it's definitely tricky to get a map to look good when it's extremely big on Quest because you can't use a lot of the nice rendering capabilities that you can for normal PC gaming.
yeah,
But I think it turned out pretty well. I'm very happy with all the maps so far.
cool. Yeah, I
Throw
think
throw some nanite on it. Get that up there.
Wookie and I are similar. Like I think we spend a huge amount of time exploring, even if the game isn't built for that.
Yeah.
I like to check every piece of grass. I'm like, someone put the time in. I want to just make sure I appreciate this. So it's good to hear, like, if you're doing some bigger maps. So, I like to get lost in the world in VR and where the hell was it going? What was I doing? Type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Just walk around.
I'm sure you can get lost. Yeah.
When we play World of Warcraft together, we're the ones like my wife plays and she's really like organized about it. She'll do the auction house and she, line up quests, and me and PJ are just like two dwarves just wandering around like, hey, look at that tree. So I think we would aggravate her if she is in our party. Take it slow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so the big breakthrough for us, I guess, was low poly, because with Patagon, I was just constantly checking the frame rate, like dudes oh, I can't have that many trees here, and this enemy, I can't have that many enemies, and it was just like it was tough, and we couldn't go batshit, like we wanted to. But then low poly, we were like, dude, the frame rate is fine. Like it is no problem. And then we just allowed us to go kind of crazy with, building these elaborate maps and, tons of enemies and yeah. So
a lot of people just don't understand. Like if you can stylize it correctly, and the game has an overall fit, it'll look timeless. Like right now, I don't know if I could go back and play anything before like, the Xbox 360 and not be like, ooh, that's dated. Like I could play Grand Theft Auto 4, it still looks pretty good. Probably some dated. But like I can go back and play like Wind Waker on the GameCube. I would still be in heaven,
Exactly. That's what we're like. We're not trying to make it realistic. And then once you let that go, it's like, oh, well, then it gets, it looks good and it has a style. And, and Daryl really explained that to me. So I got to give him props on that.
Yeah, I just started to notice that with VR because I play quite a lot of VR, and I think a few years back not that long ago, but I bought Battle Sister for VR, and I'm a like Jordan said, I'm a huge Warhammer 40K nerd, so I wanted to do it right because I wanted to feel like a
Space Marine.
Yeah, a space marine, or in this case, a female space marine. But so I started playing it, and what Battle Sister does does a lot of things extremely right because I think it's a fantastic game to play, except that it kind of tries to look semi-realistic, which is logical because it's a Warhammer 40K game, so you kind of have to. But the problem with that is that it looks really ugly. Like the game does not look good, and it's because they're trying to use high res meshes, and then they scale them down because they can't run them on the Quest. So it just doesn't look that good. And even though the game is fantastic to play, it just doesn't look right, you know. And so I mean, what you're saying holds a lot of merit, I think, because at the end of the day, yeah, the Zelda games from 2008 look fantastic in comparison to Halo of the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely think that we did a good choice with going for low poly because now we can do so much more in single maps.
And what I try to tell people about VR, and PJ and I have said this to millions of people, I'm sure, but the graphics, like the amount of polys doesn't matter because like our first introduction to VR was Elven Assassin. So it's like N64 era, simplified graphics, but like you don't even realize that you're just shooting arrows at your friends. So you can calm down on the realism and it's just fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're 100% right with Battle Sister, though. I love that game, but it is like, the ugly stepsister that you're like, I have to spend time here, but
Jeez.
I know it's pretty bad, and even though the game is great and you get used to it,
yeah,
but it just doesn't look right,
Want to give Matt also huge props for just building a majority of the actual programming of the game. So yeah, and I thought I was decent at Unreal, and then I met Matt and was like, I suck because Matt would just take whatever idea I had, and I would have like a basic thing, and he would show me, and it would be like, he just finished it so nicely. He added like a digital cube blood effect that I didn't even ask for. He just did it. And you know,
The
some
blood
of the
splatter, yeah, it definitely
yeah,
felt like it needed some kind of blood splatter coming off him. That's
yeah. So he was not like he just I could definitely tell he was like, yeah, I mean, it's a job, but at the same time, like, he takes pride in his work and we love working with him. And
yeah.
yeah.
I think it's those little touches that are really gonna help sell the setting as well. I love like kind of that attention to detail in games when you can like, yeah, you hit them and you see the blood splatter coming off, and we've added in like critical hits as well. So if you really swing your sword, there's a chance it'll score a critical hit, and the sound will be different, and it'll sound a lot like meteor. Because I think that was one of the things as well. One of the challenges with the like the sword combat in particular was like, how do you make a sword like feel heavy in VR? Because it's obviously got to be 1-to-1 with the hand movement. You can't really replicate the heaviness. So we kind of like almost simulate it by like, tracking how far they swung the sword, like how fast it's moving, etc. And that's what's like um scaling the damage essentially, and that's what's causing the big hits and causing more blood to spray off and things like that. So yeah, we really tried to make that kind of side of things feel really fun, and yeah, so people hopefully have a real good time playing it.
Yeah, we did a lot too, so you can't just wiggle the sword or anything. Like you have to take
Yeah,
deliberate
yeah,
swings and you know, yeah. I mean, it's not we didn't go I was playing some other game and I was like, wow, their combat is so good. Um, but again, it was all skeletons. I don't remember which game it was. But I think the fun thing is ours is you're gonna fight some skeletons, you're gonna fight some lizard people, you're gonna fight some goblins, you're gonna fight some elves, you're gonna fight some witches, you might even fight some ghosts and some trolls and who knows. And that
Yeah.
sometimes it's at the same time. So you're like, you know, th- I guess it kind of a little goes back to Halo 2. I want to get that part of your brain where you're like, all right, I'm under fire from here, and these guys are running up to stab me, and how do I approach this situation? And like that kind of thinking. I think it's fun to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Having to
yeah. We've added
quickly
in some
change
pretty
your
cool like
strategy.
items and stuff as well to help out with that.
Yeah, you get some spells and you get some abilities and um yeah, I don't want to ruin it, but
Yeah.
it gets more interesting as it goes along and harder. So
Yeah, and better weapons and upgrades and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
it's the real RPG feel.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Like the situational combat, it keeps things fresh and it keeps you on your toes. That's one big thing in VR. Like it really drives me nuts. Like I try to stand most of the time in VR, obviously, and like if you don't move your legs, like they just fall asleep. So I like to have to like move, and a lot of games don't make you move, so it's just like, oh.
You're like you're kind of
I
sore.
think this is definitely a standing up game, I would say.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have one thing I just curious about, like for like spawns, like I'm sure areas have certain enemies, but is there any randomization to like spawning or like what happens type of thing, or how does that work for your setup?
oh no,
So yeah,
yeah, you can talk about
go
it,
on,
Matt.
John.
You talk.
Yeah, well, so we kind of look at, so first of all, we are not so much on the enemy side, but we are talking about like randomizing the like the loot and stuff that spawns in the dungeon. And we're gonna try and do it in a somewhat smart way, so it won't like it'll like work out like so if you're running low on arrows, for example, there'll be a higher chance that arrows spawn in.
Nice.
Things like that. With regards to the enemies, they're not really randomized, but we have talked about. I don't know if this is 100% not, or yeah, or not, but like we were talking about maybe like a hard mode or something like that. So you would have, yeah, you could play it through again, maybe with more enemies spawning in, or maybe they do a lot more damage or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
well,
which would be
hopefully
good.
there's going to be a bit of replayability to it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we're also definitely going to release more. Once the game is out and we have it and it's going well, we're planning on making more of those quests, right? So they'll
Yeah.
it will definitely be. I wouldn't call it live service, but it will definitely be updates coming as well to it.
Almost like
Well,
episodes, right? I think
yeah,
would
more
be.
like
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with dynamically generated level people. That's fine. Love it. You know, all the dynamically blah blah blah. That's not what this is. This is a fun ride. It's curated. We spent a lot of time making the maps, thinking about where to put the enemies to catch you off guard and to make it hard. And you know, I mean, it's in that way. I feel like it's riskier because we're like, no, this is old school game where you're gonna play it and it's like, but that's why it also looks so good because I'm playing some of the procedurally generated games and I'm like, okay, it's just boxes, like
Yeah.
one box to the next. So this
Yeah.
is more like a movie. We're trying to make a little movie or
Yeah.
something.
I appreciate both, so I'm always happy with whatever. But there is something to be said, like if you're scripting the actual map and then the enemy location and spawning and like it, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's maybe less replayability, but I think a more fun experience, and we're more like, hey, we're gonna make more. If you like it, we'll make another episode for you. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
if people like it, so that's kind of the approach we're taking.
Yeah.
I like your take on like you just set arrows if you're low on arrows because it's cool to like have that. I don't love unlimited ammo, but like it's cool to like not be able to use the same thing 100% of the time. So if you kind of have that balance, that's good to hear.
Yeah. I think the crossbow as well, we've made it quite there's no like auto aim or anything on it. You have to like it's because
Thank
my
you.
sort of main concern was like, you know, if we just make the crossbow too good, they're never going to use the sword. So the crossbow is much more of like, you have to really aim it. You
It's
have to,
hard.
yeah, even me, even like I can't always get the right, shots off on it. And so while it is really good for like sniping enemies at a distance, once they start running at you and stuff, you're going to want to switch to the sword and engage in the melee combat.
I
And you
love
have a shield. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Sword and Board, but I love the no aiming assist, and I know Wookiee
Yeah.
loves that. But I've spent a lot of time online with Wookiee, and that's one thing I just hear him swear up and down about. Like I'm
Yeah.
aiming here, and someone runs by, and my gun moves.
Yeah, it's like
So
don't I know where to put the thing and I know how to shoot. I've been playing and don't do it for me because it's always going to be wrong. It pisses me off. So
yeah, especially in VR, I love that you guys you actually kind of have to really aim. That's awesome because that adds the realism that kind of I don't want to say makes up for like the low poly because I don't agree
No,
with,
no, no. We get it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it adds that realism to it that helps. So
yeah, like PJ said too, it forces you to change up your equipment and have to react to the situation at hand. So that's always kind of a fresh thing. Some people they just like to run through and shoot stuff, but I like to think. Like, I got to drop the crossbow, or I'm going to get my head chopped off.
Oh, you cannot
Yeah.
just run through this game.
Yeah,
I was
like
playing a level, just kind of playing it through, and even me, like I know I died. I got to the end and just died. I was like, what the heck? Like I was like, it's tough. Some of the parts are tough. And even Matt, when we made that video, he told me he was like, oh dude, I almost died at the end. Like I was this
I was yeah,
close.
legit worried I wasn't
Yeah.
going to make it to the end.
Yeah. So
awesome.
yeah.
yeah, but I get nothing makes me happier than hear the no auto aim because like back in the day we'd play like Titanfall on the Xbox,
Yeah.
and there's some of those people had like the little equipment they could go almost invisible, like the Predator, and I'd have that big Kraber sniper that you actually had to like it had bullet drop and it had timing. I'd see people run across, they'd go invisible, and I'd still snipe them anyway because I didn't have auto aim, and I was like, I've got clips of that. I'm like, that is the best time of my Xbox career. And then I play games, so I'm like, yeah, quests and everything, and it's just like you just move your hand, and it's still just shooting right where the head is. It's like it's gonna
Yeah.
be over there. Oh my god, it drives me nuts.
That's not a real skill. So
No, it drives
um
me nuts. We had one guest on, but previously, making a pretty neat game, and he argued the opposite point. He's like, well, nobody online is going to be that good. They're going to need the help, otherwise they're not going to be able to hit anything. And it's kind of like
he was one of those developers like, we know what's best for the player doesn't know what the player wants, and I'm like, fuck you. Like, don't tell me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to try your game because I don't want it to shoot for me. And he's like, well, I'm like, can you give him an option and take it off? I think we know better. We know best. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
is it just going to play itself? Because what's the fun in that? So I'm glad to hear that.
It's a skill. I actually don't use the crossbow as much because it's hard, especially like it's not bad if they're in the same room as you, but there's some cave levels where they're far off shooting at you, and it's like, dude, it is hard to hit them and see, and
I love that stuff though. Like,
yeah.
PJ could probably attest because usually when I'm playing, when we used to have a bigger crew that would play, and I had time where nobody else was playing, I'm sitting there practicing, getting ready for everyone else. When we are playing. But back in the day, I remember playing like Skyrim, and you're in a cave and you see somebody way over there, and I'm like, quick save, and I'll just sit there and they'll just lob like an arrow, and then I'll like reload the save. I'm just sitting there like for 45 minutes practicing archery on that person that's like, I don't know, half a mile away, and I'm like, oh, there's a console command to increase the distance, and I'm sitting there like, and I'll get to do that like once while we're playing in a game live, just like, look at that shot, and then that's the rest of my night is terrible. But
on the same thing though, like it might sound weird, but I enjoy in VR like actually dodging arrows. Like you feel like a badass, like, and that helps you move your body. Like I said, your legs will go to sleep if you don't move them. So
you have to dodge it, and you have to move the shield where the arrows are coming, or
that's
else
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can make it feel like the escape scene in Moria from the Lord of the Rings movie, where the arrows are bouncing off the rocks next to somebody, you just, nothing gets your kind of heart pumping like,
I think we have something like that, don't we, Matt? In the cavern, maybe like 1C.
Yeah, actually, kind of,
yeah.
That's that was actually funny enough the level I was thinking of when I said how epic the scale was, like that big cavern you walk out into, and there are there are goblins who are like sniping you from like way over, and it's you're exactly right. It is that kind of feel in Lord of the Rings where they're I think we're all probably like massive Lord of the Rings nerds.
We are
like when I'm thinking about like when I'm developing this game, that's in the back of the mind, like, oh yeah, it's like that thing in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's why we kept being like sort of like, I was like, Matt like read my mind, and he was like, yeah, dude, you're thinking of Lord of the Rings. I was like, okay, you got me. I'm like, all right, we're that's fine. That's like what I wanted to play. So
they're not making it. They're coming out with Gollum.
Oh god,
yeah, Gollum. Wow.
But yeah, if you put me through a scene like that and you make me pee a little bit, like that's gonna be a good game.
Well, I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the level is especially fun because I'm Matt. You mean the level where you start up very high, you have to climb down, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's because I always think it's really cool in VR, the sense of depth, and when you're standing on the ledge.
Yeah,
so
that was the level when we realized we needed fall damage, because I was like, before that I could just leap off straight to the bottom, and I was like, that's not right. We gotta fix that.
This level is super. Like you start up in a cave, and then it's very high up, and then once you actually get to the statues, there's wooden planks that you have to walk over to get to a staircase that leads you all the way down. But it's very far down. And
I always think it's really cool when a game can like trigger like a vertigo feeling, like I've had that in a few different games, and it's always like, wow, I don't really like that feeling, but it's cool that that game can make me feel like that.
When I said make me pee, I meant like just shooting arrows at me, and like I don't want to actually like look down and just be like, oh god, no.
no, totally.
Yeah.
No, I get you though.
But I love hearing you guys say like, it's fun to do this. This is the game I'd want to play type. Like, I always find those games land a little better, obviously, than just like well, this is what people want. This is what we'll make, type of thing. So
Yeah, we
glad to
added
hear
a
you
knee
guys.
slide in this edition. Like, yeah,
No,
Call of Duty.
we know, me and Daryl, I'm not going to name names again, but we know a particular developer who he's a great guy and he's just trying to help us, but he's constantly like, you guys need a gimmick and you need to
Oh
do
god,
this and you need to think about like, we're just like, what? No, man, that's like awful. He's like, you need to think about how to, you need a hook and like, like,
Yeah.
or just like,
It's a
no, we're
science,
not
right?
doing any
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
need a Christmas event. Everything's got to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Yeah.
presents.
Got to sell
Yeah.
skins. So,
So
Oh,
like a certain, like as if it's like a science, and
yep.
and sure, like for some games that might be the case, but I mean, this is more of an experience than anything else. So I don't think
But
that
also,
applies at all.
you're in VR, so like the gear you can see only matters at a like character select screen. It's kind of like
Yeah,
in
yeah,
yeah.
Diablo 4. Like you can buy those skins, but like I can't see them on the character. They're like an inch tall. Don't need skins. Not
yeah.
always.
So let me give you an update on Patagon though. So we did not abandon it. I paused it while we were doing this, and then at some point I had a eureka. I was like, I am gonna redo it in low poly. And and then I was like, because that's the only way I can do all the things I want to do and the scale and the big problem we were having in Patagon was we were trying to make these forests and the frame rate would be like horrendous. And we were just like, dude, I can't make the dense forest. And then once I kind of accepted it, it started working again. And right now, so it's kind of in pre-development as we wrap up Dungeon Adventures, and we're going to jump back into Patagon. But right now, I have a model maker, an animator I work with, and she's just pumping out dinosaurs for me
Nice.
and another stuff. So I've posted some of that on the Discord, but
Is
Yeah.
it
We had
still?
we had a meeting as well, which we sort of
oh my
discussed
god,
the startup
amazing
stuff, and
meeting.
we just some of the ideas that are going to be in that game, like just again, just really fun ideas, which I think I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it or not, but
Yeah, you can totally talk about it. Yeah.
Nobody
well,
listens to
because
this
it was
podcast. You're
I think
fine.
that was the thing is I was thinking of was the like the whip, because it was like it was such like an Indiana Jonesy feeling game to me. It was like we should have a whip in the game, like that you can, a whip in VR just sounds like a really fun idea, and like being able to like not only like stun enemies with it, but like grab objects and things like that. So that was one of the ideas that we're looking at for Patagon.
Yeah, whip, different weapons, multiple environments, traveling by airship between maps. I mean, it's just like, you know, it's like we can just do whatever we can imagine, which is so awesome. And it's just we couldn't, it was so painstaking before. So
Well, I'm glad it
yeah,
happened how it happened, and you
yeah,
get to do that instead of just like, well, that's done and we're moving on. Because
yeah.
that happens so, I mean, you guys probably know better than I do, but that happens
Oh
to
yeah.
so many things that at least you get to do more and actually do that. Are you still keeping like the steampunk
Oh
feel
yeah.
type? Oh,
Oh
good.
yeah. Yeah. I know
So you're like
we've
steampunk dinosaurs? I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is awesome.
no, and now now like too, I know more voice actors. I'm doing way more like voice actor NPCs and like more of a story. So I kind of have found, I mean, it's just been a progression starting with Patagon, then doing Dungeon Adventures, coming back to Patagon. It's like I've learned so much. I've kind of learned what I like in games and you know what I mean, like what I want to create. So um, yeah, that's the update on Patagon.
That's awesome. And like again with the graphic, low poly and all that, like you nail everything, like sound and everything. Like dinosaur's gonna scare the shit out of you. Like,
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and and the maps can be a lot more denser with the low poly assets.
And that'll help with the dinosaur scaring the shit out of you.
Yeah,
You
because
hear all you gotta do is hear footsteps and be like,
you'll
what
be in a
is
jungle,
that?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
played Ark when it first came out.
Yeah.
We played it as a co-op game, which isn't right, but we did it.
We made it work.
And not even ever seeing the dinosaur, just run around in the dark with a torch and just hearing that shit. So I can,
Yeah.
in VR, I
Yeah.
can only imagine. So that's exciting to hear you say that.
Oh we couldn't get the forest deep. I'll show you guys a dinosaur that I just got back, except for I'm not seeing it. Let me try to download it again. And then I'll just to give you kind of idea of what because I don't know. I think it's really cool, even though it's low poly, like
Probably. No.
the
Please be a
style is
stegosaurus. Please be a
yeah.
stegosaurus.
Should we do a stegosaurus? Hold on.
I mean,
Is it possible to share my screen at all, or how would I?
You can try. We haven't played with Zoom enough. We're used to doing all
There's
this
a-
in VR. So, but
There's a share screen button down there that might work.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
And however
Like
it
I
works
said-
or doesn't work, when I edit this and release it, I'll throw in some video if you guys can share some, and I'll try to.
Yeah. I'll throw you an image over Discord right now. But yeah, I don't know. It looks really cool. And then I sent you guys the video of Dungeon Adventure,
Yep.
so feel free to. But I also wanted to give Daryl and Matt a second talk about. They actually have their own games too. They're working on.
Oh,
So
nice.
if we could give them a little second to plug their games.
Yeah, all the time you want. We go
Sure.
until you guys are done talking. So
Until I turn into a pumpkin.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, well, I actually got it's actually out. It's been out for a while, but I was actually working on a game that I made by myself, except for the most of the assets because that's just impossible to do. But it's basically a kind of a Souls-like third person um, open world-ish RPG game, and it's called Lords and Blades. And I can show you guys the link later, but it's actually it was very fun to make because I always wanted to make a open world RPG game because when I was younger, and this is like turbo nerd, but when I was younger, I used to make a Warcraft 3. I know, are you guys do you guys know Warcraft 3?
Yeah, I played it some, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a world editor in that game.
Mhm.
And that's how everything started really because once I found out there was world editor, that's the only thing I did. And I used to just replicate World of Warcraft in Warcraft 3. So I would just like make dungeons.
That's awesome.
And edit the heroes and make custom spells and all that stuff. So making a game like this was kind of like my goal, something I always wanted to do. So yeah, I'm very happy it's out, and it's yeah.
I mentioned the name.
Yeah,
Lords and
Lords and Blades. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like it's hard to get into Steam and get traction and everything because it's so saturated, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just happy it's out, and there because people like it in general, so pretty
Well,
cool.
Nice.
anyone watching or listening to this, we'll have the links for everything you guys mentioned. So if it sounds up your alley, check it out. And I'll be checking them out, sharing on Twitter.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And back when I was going to school, I always wanted to don't take my idea, but I had a group of friends. They all fell through. But when I realized when Warcraft 3 came out that the trees, like the elf trees, you get up and walk around, and they would grab the units and just like smash them and stuff. And I was like, I need to play dodgeball with these trees. So I wanted to build. You control the tree building, and then there's and little players everywhere, little people everywhere, and the other person's controlling a tree, and you just pick them up and try to chuck them at the other tree.
Right.
And I was like, we need to make this. And then everybody was like, that sounds dumb. I'm like, that is not dumb. You're dumb. And then I lost all my friends because I called them dumb. Not really. But
That's funny.
I mean, that's the
But
cool
yeah.
thing about Warcraft 3 is that everyone made their own game in it,
Right.
and I mean, Dota is a very good example of it. And
Yeah.
so it was definitely something that kickstarted my whole game development. Well, yeah, everything. Because basically, when I was 13, all I was doing was making Warcraft 3 maps.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Matt,
Yeah, so I'm my own project is a game called Out Here Alone, which is a minimalist sci-fi horror roguelite with couch co-op multiplayer. Which
Nice.
sounds like I've just thrown a bunch of random words into a blender there, but I think when you see it, it will make sense. And it's funny enough, it kind of like the minimalist style, almost like the same story as with Dungeon Adventures, because I had a previous project which was also kind of a 2D sort of game, but I was doing all the character animations, all the enemy animations. I was doing them, in a myself basically in a different app and bringing them in, and it was just taking like so long to do everything that I just decided like, let me just do a project smaller in scale. Let's make the art style like really minimalist. It's almost like aside from a couple of enemies, it's almost like no animations in game. It's all just like, you know, the characters are basically very simple shapes that just kind of like move around in Unreal. Um, yeah, and that's even that has taken me like, the best part of a year and a half to develop. So
And he's not even
um
done. He's like
yeah,
midway.
it's getting there. It's just at this point, just getting into alpha, so it's like feature complete. But it's still got some polishing, still got some like content stuff to do. But yeah, it's up on Steam if people want to wishlist it. There is
Awesome.
also a pre-alpha demo out, which is obviously a little bit rough around the edges, but it's there if people want to try it. So yeah.
Cool. I love couch co-op games, so that's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's actually like there's a game. What kind of I had the idea for it for like ages ago, but what kind of inspired the couch co-op thing was a game called Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time,
Dude,
which I had
I
on
was
the
I
Oh,
Switch.
was
that
I
game was
was
awesome.
hoping you said that. That's my wife and I's favorite game to
Yeah,
play
that's a
together.
great.
I played that during lockdown, and I just had such a great time with it. And I realized as I was making this game, I was like, that could be a thing. You could just have that as a multiplayer game. And so the idea is drop in, drop out as well. So you can play it single player, but like at a touch of a button, your character basically splits in two, and you can basically play it two player at that point.
That's awesome.
So that was a big inspiration in terms of the gameplay.
Sounds painful. They just split in two.
It kind of makes
can't do
sense when
that?
you see it.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I have to go look it up. Like, ow.
Yeah, I've seen Matt's game when he does Twitch streaming when he's working on it.
Nice.
And
Nice.
yeah, it's very I would say like a beautiful game. But it's like I don't know, how would you describe it, Matt? It's like almost like it's like Matt's little beautiful work of art piece of like
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very artsy because it's so minimalistic. It's kind of it's I don't want to like get too pretentious with it, but it's like yeah, I'm a big like horror fan, so it's like horror elements and like but because like again, just in terms of the assets, I just didn't want to spend time building a million different assets. So I was like, let's just make it super simple and it kind of looks a little bit artsy.
To
Nice.
me, it always reminded me a little bit of Limbo. I don't know if you know
Nice.
Limbo.
I get that a lot. I get that.
Shadows, yeah.
You would like so many people will see that game, and even my previous game because it's in black and white and it's 2D. It's like, yeah, look, oh, it looks like Limbo, which I really
Oh,
appreciate because
it's a
Limbo is a great
fantastic
game, but
game.
also like,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
Amazing.
pretty
before
much
you
everyone
even
says that.
said it was black and white, well, the way you're describing it, I thought of Limbo right away. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great game. So, yeah.
And then Daryl, are you gonna do a VR game? How are you
Yeah,
feeling about
yeah,
that?
yeah,
I've
yeah,
been trying to
yeah.
get
So
Daryl into VR.
it's funny because
Embrace
I
it.
never used to play or do VR before I met Joran. So for me, it was eventually like you started talking about VR and I bought one and I got hooked. Um, but I only made games for just PC, with the typical Souls like kind of thing. But I'm actually thinking about also starting up a VR game as well, um, which I'm not entirely sure how it's gonna pan out, but it will probably be kind of like a zombie shooter kind of thing, where it's very focused on gun realism and actually having to you know handle the weapons in realistic ways, so to speak. So yeah, but That's definitely something I'm thinking about doing.
I hope you
Yeah.
do it, man. I really like that game, honestly. Like he gave me the GDD on it, and I was like, this is I mean, just as a VR head, you know what I mean? Sometimes you read it and you're like, yeah, this seems like a scenario that would be fun to
Yeah.
play. Yeah. So it's not like a regular zombie game. It has a twist on it.
Yeah, it's the main idea is that you get so you're like how in zombie games and movies you're always immune to the disease, you know. And in this game, I wanted to really knock home that you're not immune, but there's a serum, and you have to constantly make sure you're that you're using the serum, so to speak. I don't know if it's going to be pills or if it's going to be like actually having to inject yourself with with the stuff. But I really wanted to have a mechanic where you are surviving, uh, you know, zombies, but also you have to like actually think about, you know, if I get bitten, I need to find more of the serum and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a survival horror, and then with a main mission as well. So
Nice.
it's pretty cool idea. I'm just really trying to work on it and kind of get it out.
And if you're focusing on like weapon realism, like I think that's one thing, especially in VR, like they're not that I've ever lived through a zombie horde or anything, but to me, like fumbling to load a gun while something's coming at you very slow, like that's just tense. Like
And
instead of
I
just
also,
shooting 100 things, like getting that last bullet in the chamber and
and I'm not planning about making. I'm also not planning about making like a large machine gun with a large magazine. I'm thinking about single action break shotguns, or like a bolt action rifle, that you have to like manually put the bullets in. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be like a Doom shooter. It'd be more like a survival shooter.
Yeah.
Because to PJ's point, we played a lot of Pavlov on PCVR. It took a break to come to standalone and stuff, but like didn't tell you that when we first played, you got to figure out how to load the guns. So I know you said you weren't gonna have a big machine gun, but I got like the M60 and I ran out and there's PJ doing something, and it's only us two in the map. I think we were probably playing the old GoldenEye maps that people made in Unreal for that game. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to load the gun. And PJ, I know he's out there because we were shooting at each other. I don't know if he's coming behind me or what. But then I'm like, I can't get the gun to load. And it was like, I'm going to shit my pants because I don't know what's going on. Like that, if you can craft that, you don't need 100 zombies on the screen or anything. You just need like fumbling with that last bullet, trying to get it in there or something. Holy crap.
I think I snuck up behind you, whispered, and knifed you, and you like screamed.
Yeah, I did.
I play a lot of Onward, so it's kind of like that. Yeah, where I at one point I played it so much that I was just like, I don't know, like you get really good at it too. It's like it's such a it's just so much fun to play those games. So I really want to do something with that in mind, but I'm not sure how crazy I want to go.
If you can just create that atmosphere, because Onward 2, I only played it a few times, but it has this real like closed in sense, like you don't want to move forward because you don't know when you're going to get shot, and like when somebody shoots and a bullet goes whipping by your head, they have that crack, like a bullet just went by your head, like you could almost feel it. That would be exciting because then you could make it suspenseful and that sounds like fun.
And not a lot of zombies will be required, and that's the thing. It also won't be, it'll be years after the apocalypse happened, right? So everything will be apocalyptic kind of thing.
Kind of calmed down and settled.
And there won't be a lot of zombies, but like, it's scary if you see them kind of thing.
It makes it worse because you go into like a public restroom and you're like, I need supplies. Is there anything in there? And you're like, you don't know.
Yeah.
But you could get through that whole encounter without seeing a zombie, and it would be just as bad for your heart rate.
Exactly.
I could have gone wrong.
That's kind of what I want to create, but it's not I don't have a concrete plan yet. Let me just put it that way.
But still, the scope of the games you guys have been talking about, really, you would make me pee my pants at some point. One of you guys would.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal here.
Yeah, they
Cool.
really like horror games. I'm actually not a horror guy. They both love horror games.
Yeah, that's one thing in VR I have a problem with is horror. Like movies don't bother me, flat games, but anything the remote, and it's not even like horror, just suspense is just something in VR that just triggers me. So
Yeah, we played one round of that Phasmophobia or whatever, and we didn't
yeah.
read up. We just kind of walked in blind, and that was freaking terrifying.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I played that too.
Good God.
Yeah,
Yeah, Phasmophobia is scary. Yeah,
yeah.
especially in VR. It's
But we
also
didn't know.
one of the most funniest games I've ever played in VR.
I could see that. We didn't know you were somebody supposed to stay in the van and monitor sanity. We just four of us just went in there. We were like, "What is this radio I have? I don't know." And then the lights flicker and somebody gets murdered.
I have a clip of that, and Wookiee, I think I might have already been killed, and
Yeah,
Wookiee knows he's about to die, and he's like jokingly like telling the ghost to fuck off and shit. Like it's just pure gold. Like
yeah.
They don't
as you
like
can
it.
tell, he's like frightened.
I was scared. But then I did have like a Brendan Fraser moment from The Mummy. We did a live like walk through. This is a different thing, but we did a live walkthrough like a zombie place where there's actors dressed up like zombies and they're trying to, you get too close and the radar makes you bite. They had all these people screaming at us go through, and I think there was somebody in a gorilla suit, like a zombie freaking gorilla or something. And he just howled at me, and we're all like terrified. And I started howling back at him, like in The Mummy when he starts yelling at the zombies or whatever. And I felt like a badass. I'm like, I would do okay.
Just
New
all back.
pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So I was yelling at a ghost, and I didn't make it.
Um, yeah, we got to wrap up pretty soon. I want to just
Yeah.
talk about really quick what games we're all playing, if that's cool, or we.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wookiee, I sent the picture of the dinosaur that he sent over via Discord just so you can take a peek.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, all right. So I just picked up like a spaceship shooter from App Lab. I'm gonna try it tonight. I'm very excited to play that. I feel like there's not enough of those kind of like X-Wing, Wing Commander type games. So I'm gonna play that. But I have become addicted to playing pickleball in VR. Have you guys played that one? Oh my God. Oh my
That
God.
game is amazing. It's insane.
It's like I fiend to play it. I'm just like, all right, I gotta go play pickleball. Like, leave me alone. I gotta go play pickleball. So,
I don't even know what the hell pickleball is. I'm so behind the times.
It's like tennis mashed up with ping pong. Literally, like it's a smaller
Oh.
tennis court with a wiffle ball and a ping pong paddle, basically. Like
yeah, the rules are a little
I haven't
different.
played it either.
Oh my God.
my friends and I got into it over the last summer, and we just played last weekend. And he's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Pickleball?" Like,
But you gotta admit, it works really well for VR. Like,
yes,
you just are like, okay, I feel like I'm here and playing pickleball. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So,
And if you're talking about the respawn one, because there's a couple of the titles.
I think Pickleball 1, I think I'm playing on. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like that game's really good. But the Resolution Games version, Racket Club, where you can do like your half of the court in MR and then have the VR in front of you and like kind of make sure you're not running into your walls and stuff.
Oh,
Like,
I gotta try that.
it's really
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Matt, what are you playing?
In VR.
Or just anything? Yeah.
Yeah, in VR, it's kind of funny because when I got the Quest specifically for the project, right? And one of the games I had my eye on even before I got it was Walkabout Mini Golf. And I basically, when I got the Quest, I probably spent like 2 months just playing that game solid because it's just such a good game. I got like really, really good at it. And basically my mum is over visiting at the moment, and I got her to try it, and she really enjoyed it. But I noticed when I was showing her how to play it, I'd gotten like really rusty at it again. So now I'm like playing Walkabout Mini Golf again to get my skills back. So that's my VR experience at the
love that
moment.
game too. The only problem was I hurt my neck from looking down so much, so I had to stop playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
you
of those
definitely feel it
maps that they
afterwards.
make are insane. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, some of them are really difficult as well. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah. I
We
do love
had
that
the
game.
lead artist that does the maps on the podcast. He used to work for Disney,
Whoa.
and
Yeah.
he can make.
Fun
We're
engineer.
talking about how he makes a story just out of the map, and it's highly
Yeah,
talented.
it's art.
Yeah,
And that's another kind of low poly game.
Nope.
Just looks
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah. And other than that, I'm doing my my second run through of Amnesia: The Bunker
Oh, sweet.
on stream,
Nice.
which is it's such a good game. Like it's a horror game, but it's also like just really fun to play as well. I really love like the game mechanics in that game. So that's been really cool playing that through again. I'm really bad at it though. Like I always just like I don't even die to the monster. I die to like the traps in the level. I just always like walk through a tripwire and I'm like, what's that sound? And then the next moment I've been blown up. And it's like, okay. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, I've watched you play, what is it? Ship the pirate game.
Oh, Sea of Thieves.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I play Sea of Thieves with
Nice.
my friend every
Oh,
week
yeah.
on stream, and it's kind of our tradition to play that every Friday night.
That's
He's
awesome.
awesome, dude. That's
Yeah,
again.
we've been playing it for 3 years. We still absolutely suck at it, but it's always fun.
Yeah, the sea is amazing in that game. Just the
Yeah,
way it
it's pretty.
looks.
Yeah, it's really well done.
I had fun just watching. I was like, well, this is crazy. Like they're actually working together to do this ship and stuff.
Yeah, barely,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, barely.
Just
Okay.
about working together.
I love that game, but like the last few times we played it, it seems like every time you embark out onto the sea, you get the Kraken, and it's
Yeah,
like
a lot. Yeah.
a lot of times.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we
God
didn't
damn
we didn't
it.
have one. We didn't have one for ages, and then we had like a few weeks back. We had a new person join us, and no joke, as soon as we set sail, we got krakened, and we're like,
Yeah.
"What? That's beginner's luck, surely."
Well, maybe they're like, this person hasn't seen 7 Krakens a minute, and then
Yeah.
we calm down for them. But yeah, we played the crap out of that game. That is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Daryl? What you playing?
The the uh, the only game I play on VR mostly. So I play on PC most, right? And I play games like I play Halo Infinite a lot. I play Mountain Blade Bannerlord 2.
Hmm.
I'm now playing that hard a lot too. But on VR, I play Blade and Sorcery. Like it's like so much. It's kind of it's a problem. It's so cool. I don't know.
Have you disturbed yourself with what you get up to in that game at all? Like,
I can't film it. It's we can't talk about it here. But no, my lawyer told me not to talk about it now. But
Oh,
it's
no.
it's
The one
no,
rule
no, but
of
it's
Blade and Sorcery: you don't talk about it.
You don't talk about it. No, but it's a fantastic game. It's so cool. It's you kind of feel like I don't know. You kind of feel like a superhero sometimes, you know, like climbing and jumping and doing all that stuff. That game is like it's amazing um how realistic the fighting feels in that. And
Yeah.
it's just so much fun. When you throw your sword and it hits exactly here and it's like fight's over and you're like, whoa, did I just do that? You know? I bet I could not do this in real life.
yeah, VR kind of gives you a false image of yourself with some things that.
Yeah.
Have you really tried it in real life?
No, I haven't. No, but it's a fantastic game. I love it. So sometimes, I'd be playing it in the living room, and then my girlfriend comes downstairs and she's like, "All right, it's that time again," and she sees me just wailing around and ducking and rolling, and I don't know. I get very very into it. Yeah,
That's awesome. It's funny, we had that guy, the lead developer from that game, on the podcast, and he would not come on the podcast. He's like,
Wow.
you guys talk too long. I'm like, well, we can do a half hour. We do whatever the guest wants. And
yeah.
he's like, yeah, let's do a half hour, then I'll come on. So he did, and then 2.5 hours later, he's
That
like,
was
oh, I get it.
2.5 hour episode. We were like, yeah, we had no scripts or really set things, just have fun. And he just went like, wow.
Yeah.
That was
pretty funny.
There's just one thing though with that game. So right now, in our new home, we have plenty of space, but in our previous house, we had an apartment, and I think I probably destroyed like two like plant pots. I hit the wall one time so hard, like that like I had a feeling I couldn't move my like paint for like a day, you know, like
Oh
to
god.
bleeding. Like it's because you're so into it, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're next to the wall, and
Hmm.
I don't know, and you just punch it, you know.
In
Yeah.
in my
So.
bonus room, we've got like angled ceilings, so they're kind of low on the sides. And
Oh
PJ,
yeah.
I think we were playing Rec Room or something.
Yeah.
Kicks a giant soccer ball, and I jump thinking I can get it, and I hit the angled ceiling so hard I
Oh,
like crumpled into it, like my whole body just kind of like bounced off it, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
That was
gotta
a
go.
that was a horrendous noise. I
It
still can
was
hear
it
it.
was
It's
bad, but
Yeah, it's just so like you're so into it, and then before you know it, you're against the wall, and you just full up punch the
yep.
wall. If my controllers, I've had them replaced once already. If you see my controllers, it's insane. They're just completely busted up. So bad.
Need a padded room.
Yeah, I do actually do.
But
I need one.
your brain just doesn't know that Elven Assassin game, that first time we did, I tell this story all the time. But I went to dodge an arrow and I saw this Nintendo 64 graphics barrel next to me. My brain's like, that's not really there. Don't try to lean on it. But as I was dodging the arrow, the other half of my brain was like, sure enough, go ahead and lean on it. And I just fell right on the floor.
Yeah,
It's like, that's fine. I'll heal.
yeah, that
VR is
happens
great for
too.
that.
Oh yeah, but VR's awesome. Happy, I'm happy we started making VR games.
yeah.
Yeah, and we started this podcast like um kind of just to hear the developer side of things because I know a lot of gamers like within 5 minutes like, oh, this game's a turd, or this sucks, that sucks, and why don't you do this? And they don't understand how much work goes on behind the scenes. And so that was one of the main reasons we started the podcast, just to talk to the devs about the games, but also like it's also more fun to hear about the journey and what you guys get up to. And I just like to thank you guys because I mean I haven't played any of your games yet, but I'll fix that soon. And hopefully when these come out, like I'll really enjoy your work. But you
Yeah.
know, as I'm a gamer, I cannot code. I could barely get Unity open to even attempt to code, sadly enough. So I just really appreciate you guys building these things that I enjoy so much. Because gaming's my main hobby, and it helps me tell the real world to fuck off for a while, and
Yeah, yeah.
and it's important. So I appreciate it. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
too. I mean, we're all gamers by heart,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
tell
it's what
you,
you were touching on earlier as well. It's saying like about it. It's I think if you're making something that you enjoy that playing, then I think that's the main thing, and I think that's that shows through in the work as well. And if other people enjoy it as well, then that's kind of a bonus.
yeah, it probably, I'm assuming, validates you and just makes you realize, like, hey, there are people like me out there. Because some days you don't feel like that. But I won't share games I'm playing because I'm a weird duck. Like I'll play 10 games one day, I won't play anything the next, and I just bounce around whatever
No, I
sounds
want.
good.
What are you playing? Well, that's what I want to
Yeah.
hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, on in VR, I'm still working through Asgard's Wrath 2. The first game was like my all-time favorite VR game ever.
Yeah, I'm still
Second
working
one's
through it.
second one's been great. I also halfway through, sadly, still through the Assassin's Creed game. I love that thing. Um, I'm a big fan on, flat screen. I just started playing Grand Blue Fantasy on PS5. It's just like an old school JRPG type of thing. Really
Okay.
digging that. Xbox, I'm playing Myth Force most recently. It's on Steam too. It's just a flat screen game, but it's drawn like an old 80s cartoon. Has, all the creatures and monsters we've been talking about, all the old staples, and and when you build up enough power, you click some buttons and there's a really cool 80s riff that kicks in and you just feel like kicking some ass. So really cool game. Those are the main things. So, but there's a whole other list I won't get into. Oh, I don't know if Wookie, have you been playing anything?
Yeah,
You've been
Wookie.
kind of doing other stuff.
I've been doing a lot of other stuff. So the last games I played, I don't want to sound like I jumped on the what everyone says was great bandwagon, but Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield. But I
I
had
mean,
those
they,
before everybody said they were like game of the year. Other than that,
Yeah.
I've been so busy. So whenever PJ and one of our nephews have time, I'll just jump in. So we'll play some, what was it, World War II
Warplanes, yeah.
warplanes on VR, and then sometimes we just hop on the Grand Theft Auto and when nobody's got anything pressing. So
That's a
been
fun
boring.
game too. The
Oh, yeah.
Warplanes game. I really enjoy
Yeah,
that.
those are like they started on the original Quest, and it's just how are they getting this to run so smoothly? Because you think like that's one thing that's gonna make you puke,
Mhm.
but they're
will-
so smooth, like it's crazy.
with
Yeah.
the me talking about like sniping and stuff earlier, like I will get like a bloodshot left eye. Like my brain must be watching the pixels so hard, like I just focus on it. So sometimes VR can do that to me. It'll tweak me, but do barrel rolls or whatever in those warplane games, and that doesn't bother me a bit. And then the last time we played, we had like one epic dogfight between the three of us, and I was kind of like freaking out. It was so epic, like getting the last person like right lined up and then shooting him right when the timeline or the timer runs out.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Nice.
is really fun.
Have-
But it's the
have
kind of
you-
thing where like
No, keep going. Sorry.
I was it was the kind of dogfight where like we're all kicking the crap out of each other, and I just you can't catch this one guy, and then you outsmart him, and then you feel like the hero. Sorry, PJ. I think I shot you down.
Yeah, it's fine. I suck at that game.
Nah.
Have you guys played Breachers at all?
Oh God, yes.
We did.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I had a whole thing where I was playing Breachers all the time with a buddy online, and that was
That's
really fun.
brought back Rainbow Six shit for me, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely got to play some more of that. It's been a bit, but
The people almost immediately seem like the people who play it a lot, they must play it like all day. So we were getting okay against bots and just having fun. And you go into an open room and it's just like
Oh,
how
you
do
get
we end-
slaughtered. Yeah.
Yeah, they just go like they aim around the corner. You can't. Nobody can see my hands. I'm talking with my hands here, but it's just like there's a gun around the corner, shoots you in the face, and it's like, what? Like I had no idea.
I just meet up with a buddy and I go, let's just play against bots.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's really fun. Yeah.
I actually played a lot of Rainbow Six back in the day, and we went to a LAN party here in the Netherlands once, and we actually partook in this championship kind of thing, right? So we made our like esports team, and the first game we won, and we were like, wow, like maybe we're actually kind of good, right? And then the second game, we also won because the guys didn't show up because they were all drunk, which was awesome. And then the third game was like versus actual good people, like all like 18-year-olds that like are playing 16 hours a day.
mm-hmm.
I've never been so humiliated in my life. I got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
And that was really fun though to do. But oh my God, they're so good.
Yeah.
That's so hard with those games, right? With the actual competitive games,
Yeah.
it's like you can't even try.
But okay, we got to get back into Breachers. I was playing with a couple of friends and Zim from Def Reality podcast, had a lot of fun, and I was started to kick some ass before the night was over for a first time. So they added a new big winner like snow map, so it was like, oh sweet.
I'll have to check that out. I think the last game we played that was just against bots, Samson, was like, Wookie's gonna give me nightmares. And I was like, mission accomplished. I don't remember what I did, but yeah. I love that game.
Yeah.
All right.
Should we call it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, thanks guys. This was a great chat.
Yeah.
Excited to play some games soon, hopefully, whenever.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
I mean, no, we're really close. All the levels are done. Matt's putting the finishing touches on a trader character that you can meet in different maps that will give you clues and trade with you. Then we just need to, we're all going to each take a couple levels and put the loot into the levels, and then just like general cleanup of bug fixes, and it's ready to go.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So
So we'll get to, we'll definitely be like, well, this is a Daryl map, the way the loot's dropping, and you know.
oh yeah.
That's a Daryl.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we'll let you guys know.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for your time.
Yeah,
Thanks for
it's been fun.
chatting. Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for
man.
making
Thank you
our
for having
first
us,
our first episode back be a good one. So
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks
anytime.
for having us.
If you need any play testing, I'm available.
We'll hit you up. Yeah, we'll hit you up.
Breacher's Nights
Absolutely.
or
Oh yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I can't wait to check out all your individual games and both Patagon and Dungeon Adventures. And well, like I said, we'll be anyone listening, watching, we'll have all the links on below and check out all their work. So
All right. Sweet.
Thanks.
have a good night.
Cheers,
Get some
guys.
sleep.
See
Appreciate
you
it.
guys.
See ya.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
see ya.